In today's episode, I will be talking about the A.V.A. Wheel of the Year. So I'm going to be sharing with you what are the 8 holy days, what are the 8 sacred days of the year, what they mean. So if you want to know what they are, stay tuned and watch. This is Alexandra Villarroel Abrego, and I welcome you to another episode of AlexandraTV. Now, today's episode is about the Wheel of the Year, the 8 holy days of the year. It's something, that I've been using in my personal life for many, many years now, just following these natural cycles of nature. But I would say that in the past few years, I've been using it also in business. And what I've decided to do when I decided to launch the new versions to all of our programs was to launch the new versions, but with the 8 holy days. I remember for years when I knew that I was going to launch the new versions, I was always wondering, should I launch them on the first of the month, on the full moon, on the new moon, the last day of the month? I used to always wonder what would be the perfect dates. And that's when I said, well, let's actually do it with the 8 holy days. It's a perfect way to do it. Now, of course, before we get started with these 8 holy days, well, make sure you go and download your poster if you haven't yet. So as you saw at the beginning of the video, we have the 2 beautiful posters of the A.V.A. pyramid, the A.V.A. Wheel of the Year. So make sure you go and download that. You can print it if you want. You can take a little picture, a little video. You can share it on social media and make sure you tag me. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you, what are the 8 holy days, what are each day, what they mean, but we're not going to get into the details because the reality is that it would take a lot of time if we would go through all the details, right? Because there's a lot of information to be shared for each of the 8 holy days. But let me know in the comment section if perhaps you'd like for me to make a whole video for all of the 8 holy days. Let me know. So the Wheel of the Year. The Wheel of the Year, the 8 sacred holy days. Because it's a wheel, there's not really anyone that can say, when it starts. A lot of people say that the first official day of the Wheel of the Year would be on the 31st of October, which is Samhain. I personally like to start my Wheel of the Year and I mark the beginning of this wheel on Yule, on the 21st of December, which is the winter solstice. The reason why I like to do this is because I feel like this marks a special point in nature, right? At this point, it's like the nights are longer. This is the longest night of the year. It's the shortest day of the year. And I think it's a perfect time for introspection, which is why with the A.V.A. pyramid, the level that is with Yule is a level of awareness, right? It's a time for introspection, for spending time perhaps with yourself, but also of course, it's a time of celebration. It's a time of celebration because life, is slowly gonna get back to light. Yes, this is the longest night of the year, but at the same time, now the days are gonna start to grow longer after this point. Now, what's interesting about the celebration of Yule is that the traditions that you would normally do at Yule are the traditions that today a lot of people think are Christmas traditions. But here's the truth. The reality is that all of the Christmas traditions that we know of today, the Christmas tree, the Yule log, all of these traditions, they actually come from Yule. So they were taken from Yule. So what happened is that back in the day when the Roman Catholic Church was trying to convert people to the religion of Christianity, well, they were having a lot of trouble doing it, right? People were very stuck in their old ways. They wanted to keep their tradition, which is normal. So what they decided to do was to make their important dates, such as the birth of Jesus, such as the resurrection, all of these important dates, very close to the 8 holy days. Now, here's what's interesting is that perhaps you don't know this, but Jesus was not actually born on the 25th of December. And today there's a lot of evidence that shows this. He was actually born in March, in the spring equinox. So what they did is that they changed the date so it was closer to Yule, so that people would celebrate the same way they celebrated the birth of the sun, right? S-U-N. Now they were going to celebrate the birth of the sun, S-O-N. So this is where I like to start, like I said, my Wheel of the Year in Yule. This is the first celebration, a celebration where I do all the traditions that again are from Yule, but that are considered today as Christmas traditions. But it's also a time to, have these moments of awareness, right? Where am I at in my life? Where do I want to go? What is next, right? What am I capable of? Then the next celebration of the 8 holy days is the celebration of Imbolc. Imbolc is on February 2nd, February 1st, and today, again, Christianity calls it Candlemas, right? And it's a celebration of lights. The reason for this is because we are halfway through the winter at this point, right? So we're halfway through the winter, so light is slowly but surely coming back to earth. So there's like the hope of light, right? There's also the first lactation of the cow that happens at around this time of the year, around, you know, February 1st, February 2nd. So back in the day, people used to celebrate by making feasts that had a lot of ingredients based on milk, right? A lot of milk-based ingredients and foods, right? So this is a good time to celebrate hope and life coming back, you know, and nature, you know, the snow is soon going to stop and now life is going to come back. Now, this second level, we connected to the level of change in the A.V.A pyramid, because life is now starting to change, right? So slowly but surely, we're going to get closer to spring times and better and warmer days. Afterwards, we have the spring equinox, which is Ostara. Now, as you can perhaps hear it, it's very similar to Easter, right? Sounds like Easter. Well, it's because that's where the traditions of Easter come from, right? Ostara was a time to celebrate fertility, coming back to life, which is why in Easter, why do you think we have the little eggs, the Easter egg? Why do you think we have the Easter bunny? They have nothing to do with the resurrection of Jesus. No, it's because these were pagan traditions. These were traditions back in the day that people used these symbols to represent fertility, right? The eggs represent fertility. The little bunnies like to reproduce themselves a lot, right? So this was a representation of Ostara, of the spring equinox. Now, Ostara, we connected in the A.V.A pyramid with the level of awakening, right? Because life is now awakening, you know, the earth is slowly coming back to life. So it's a beautiful time in nature, and also perhaps within yourself, you know, the work that you can do within yourself. The next celebration of the 8 holy days of the wheel of the year is Beltane. Now, this is the midpoint in between the spring equinox and in between the summer solstice. And Beltane usually happens on May 1st. And this, back in the day, used to be a celebration of love a lot. You know, again, we're still in the topic of fertility, right? Now, the earth is green, you know, the flowers, the tulips are blossoming, things are starting to grow. And so back in the day, there was actually a tradition where people were allowed to have sexual encounters with other people that were not their husbands or wife, and there was no repercussions for this. So people could do that. It was the only day of the year that people were allowed to go and have, you know, relations with whoever they wanted. So that, because again, it was, life was coming back to earth. The sun was starting to shine. So that's what people would do. Now, in the celebration of Beltane, we connected to the 4th level of the pyramid, which is the level of transformation. So again, life is transforming, right? We can already see the bees are also coming back to earth. So this is the process that is happening in nature, and that can also happen within yourself. The next celebration of the 8 holy days is Litha. Litha is the summer solstice. Now, this is the longest day of the year and the shortest night of the year. Now, as I said, I'm not going to share the tradition for every 8 holy days, but one thing that is good to do on Litha is, let's say, to do a firebomb outside, you know, or to watch the sunrise or watch the sunset, because it's a fire celebration, it's a sun celebration. On the summer solstice, the sun is at its peak, right? It's shining bright. It's a beautiful sunny day, of course, in the northern hemisphere, right? So it's a beautiful celebration. And this, we connected with the level of ascension, right? So we're halfway through these 8 days. So this is the level of ascension in the A.V.A pyramid. So it's where you connect the 4 levels that are more, you know, in the dark to more in the light, going towards the light. The next celebration, and this one is the first of the 3 celebrations of harvest, the harvest days, really. So the first one is Lammas on August 1st. This is where usually a lot of people are going to go and do like little celebrations with corn, right? So like doing the corn, I don't know how it's called in English. In French, it's called épluchette de blé d'Inde. So people like to do these little celebrations because now it's the beginning of the harvest. So all of what you've worked for, you're going to slowly but surely start to harvest it as of August 1st, right? And it's important to do this because if you don't do it on time, then your crops are going to go bad. And this is what was interesting with the 8 holy days, is that people had these celebrations because it was Earth that were giving you these celebrations. You know, these were important marking points in the year where people had to look at what was happening in nature and celebrate what was happening, but also do whatever they had to do at this time of the year in order to survive. You know, if people didn't prepare when the fall equinox, let's say, came for winter, they could die in the time of winter, right? So it was very important to follow these natural cycles of nature. So when it comes to this, this celebration, which is Lammas, which is the first harvest, this is where we get into the level of mastery. So now we're starting to master things. The next celebration of the 8 holy days is Mabon. And Mabon is the second harvest, of course, and this is on the fall equinox, the autumn equinox. So this is a time again to harvest, and this is usually when people go and pick apples, you know, because harvest is happening, right? And slowly but surely you're starting to see that we're going back to the winter times, right, into the colder days. So you need to start harvesting. Now, in this day of celebration, we connected with the 7th level of the A.V.A pyramid, which is higher consciousness, because at this point you're getting closer and closer to, again, you know, the next solstice. So it's a time to have this, ask yourself questions about, okay, so here we are on this path, you know, towards enlightenment. So now how can we bring to the world? And then finally, we have the last day of the 8 holy days, which is Samhain. Again, a lot of people say that this is the first day, but it's a wheel. That's the way I say it. It's a cycle. There's no ending. There's no beginning. It's the constant cycle and beautiful cycle of life. Now, Samhain is on October 31st. What happens? What do we know about today on October 31st? It's Halloween, right? And the reason why in Halloween we have the calabashes, right? The reason why in Halloween it has this theme of, you know, the dead and, you know, the ghosts and everything, it's because at this time of the year, it was the last harvest, of course, of the year before winter would come. But it was also the time where people had to slaughter their animals, right? So the cows and the chickens and all of that couldn't survive through the winter times, well, they had to sometimes slaughter a lot of animals. So there was a lot of blood. There was this dark spirit, you know, in the air because this was happening at this time, but also because Earth was slowly dying, you know, the leaves were falling, everything was becoming, you know, cold again and dark again. The nights were longer, the days were shorter. So in this level, we have the level of impact. And the level of impact, I think it's very important to be on this level because this is the last harvest, right? So after all the inner work and outer work that you have done on your personal and professional life, now it's time to impact and to have your last harvest before the cycle begins again. So these are the 8 holy days, and this is how we have connected these 8 very special and important days that we have in nature to the 9 levels of the A.V.A pyramid. Now, of course, we also have the 9th level of the A.V.A pyramid, right? The level of enlightenment, the pinnacle of this pyramid, right? Now, this one is not connected with one of the 8 holy days in particular, with any of the 8 holy days in particular, because at the end of the day, I think that when it comes to enlightenment, is really, once you've done all the other levels and you've reached the top, it's really all year long, right? It's a cycle. It's something that never ends, right? So these are the 8 holy days, the 8 holy days of the year, the sacred wheel of the year, and what I like to call now, connected with the A.V.A pyramid, the A.V.A wheel of the year. I love to follow these cycles because I know, and our ancestors knew, that these are the natural cycles of life, of us, right, as humans. This is what allows us to be connected with nature, right, where we're from, Mother Earth, right? So I really believe that it's a beautiful thing to do, to celebrate these days, but also to do the inner work with knowing, you know, these 9 levels of the A.V.A pyramid. So here you go. These are the 8 holy days of the year. These are the 8 days of the wheel of the year, right, which is a beautiful concept that I love and that we are using to launch our programs, the new versions to all of our programs. So in the comment section, I would love to know which one of these 8 holy days is the one that perhaps you like the most, you know, that maybe it kind of sparks some curiosity, maybe the one that you want to start celebrating from now on, or that perhaps you already celebrate. I would love to read from you. If you like this video, don't forget to like it, don't forget to share with all of your friends, and of course to subscribe for new episodes every week here on Alexandra TV. So that is it for today, and I will see you very, very soon.